Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the kitchen. Today we're going to make Carolina apricot rice pudding. So I'm going to have to change a couple things. I don't have any light brown sugar, so we're just going to use it with all granulated sugar, which is fine. And the apricots, last year I made it with 4 ounces. This bag is a 6-ounce bag, and I think I would like to have a lot of apricots in it this time. So I'm going to use the whole entire bag, the whole 6 ounces. And I'm sure that's going to be just wonderful. So now, last year I did 2 cups of milk, 2 cups of half and half. Today I only have milk, so I'm just going to do 4 cups of milk. Now, one thing is that I also added a half teaspoon of cinnamon. Now, I think I'm going to leave the cinnamon out this time and taste it first to double check that that I want the cinnamon in it. And then the other thing is that I have these beautiful pistachios left over from our kunafa. So I am going to use that as the garnish on the top and make an absolutely lovely Carolina rice pudding. So first step is that we need to bring the rice and 1.5 cups of water to a boil over medium-high heat. So I'm going to have to measure out our rice. We need 5 ounces. I've got our scale. Let's get a bowl right here. And remember, when we're using the scale, the label's off, but this button is the tare, T-A-R-E. We're already set at ounces, so we're going to put the bowl on. And remember, then you have to press tare again to get to 0. All right, so now we can measure our 5 ounces of rice. And this time I'm using the jasmine rice because I had it left over from previous recipe. And this is a long grain rice, you can see. Jasmine is a very fragrant rice, and this will taste wonderful. I think we used this when we made the coconut rice pudding, and it was absolutely delicious. Last year we used Carolina long grain rice. This year we're going to use the jasmine Thai long grain rice and compare the two. If memory serves me well, I'll be able to tell. Also our vanilla extract. So let me get this measured and we'll move on. Okay, so I have our 5 ounces of rice right here in our pan, and then we're going to add in the 1.5 cups of water and bring it to a boil over medium-high heat. Okay, so here is our 1.5 cups of rice, water, over our 5 ounces of rice, which is 3/4 of a cup. And let's get this on. We're going to go to like medium-high. Okay, make sure it's over. Or we're going to bring it to a boil. Okay, once this has come to a boil, we're going to lower the heat to a simmer. And we're going to wait for all of that liquid to evaporate, and then we'll add in our milk. All right, so we're going to let that simmer. While that's happening, though, we're going to be cutting up our apricots. So we want them finely chopped. So you can see I'm cutting each one in sort of like 3 strips, and then you cut the strips into smaller squares, chunks. Okay, so that's how you would cut up your apricots. Okay, so now you can see that all of that liquid has evaporated. And you want to be careful because you don't want to burn the rice at the bottom, so keep an eye on it. Now we're going to add in our 4 cups of milk. Now, I'm only using 1% milk. It's low in fat. If you want a really rich rice pudding, you can use whole milk, cream, half and half, a mixture of the two, anything like. But today I want to make something that's a little more heart healthy, a little better for the waistline, and I'm just using the 1% milk so that way it's not so fattening. So now this is going to take a while. We're going to bring it to a boil and simmer it, and we are going to stir it and let it thicken and simmer for about 30 minutes, okay? So once it comes to a boil, you want to kind of stir it every so often. You don't want to leave it alone. You want to get down into the corner of the pan and make sure you get all the rice out from sticking to the pot. Make sure you get that because that rice could burn if you leave it in that same spot. So once this comes to a boil, I'm going to turn it down to a simmer, and then I'm going to keep stirring it to thicken it for 30 minutes. So that's going to take a while. The timer has gone off. I've been stirring this for the last 15 minutes very frequently, and I had to stop and go finish up a class. But if you let it sit for too long, unfortunately, you can get a skin on the top of it. So you have to be careful that doesn't happen. You don't want a skin forming. If it does, just peel it off. I'm lucky that didn't happen. Now, that was 30 minutes, and you can see how thick it is now. It's gotten really thick. And I'm now gonna add in our sugar. Stir that in. And then I'm gonna add in our apricots. So those are right here. Let me get those in. Okay, let's get those in. Stir that around. All right, now we're just gonna, at this point, we don't need to continue cooking it so much. It is pretty thick. It will thicken as it cools. And if you get it really, I like it really thick. Some people like it looser. I actually do really enjoy it very thick. But so we can take this off the heat now, and you'll see it really will thicken a lot as it cools. So it's always good to know what the consistency is at the right point to take it off. Now, if it does thicken too much and you really don't like it, you can just add some milk and thin it out. If you want to serve it cold, add cold milk, thin it out. If you want to serve it warm, warm up the milk in a microwave, pour it in, and thin it out that way. All right, so the last thing that we need to do, though, is we have to add in our vanilla. So we're going to turn off the heat completely, and then we'll add in the vanilla. All right, so it is 1 tablespoon of vanilla. All right, there we go. There is our vanilla. Now, the one thing I did want to check first, though, was the cinnamon. I don't think I want cinnamon and apricot. So let me taste it first, though, and make sure it's not lacking. If it's lacking, then I'll add the cinnamon. But I've got a lot of vanilla in here. We've got those apricots looking gorgeous. And I think sometimes it's best to just stick with simplicity when you're making something like rice pudding. I gotta get a spoon, hold on. Okay, so here we go. Make sure I get a piece with apricot to make sure the flavor is good. Hopefully it's not too hot, won't burn my tongue. That's really good. No, I'm not going to put any cinnamon in. This is just perfect the way it is. I did not rehydrate the apricots because they are in this liquid, so they will plump up more when they're in here. So normally I always rehydrate everything, but now I'm just going to let it sit for a while longer, and then I can serve it in a nice bowl. I have this pretty little glass here, which I can put some in and garnish it with the pistachios. So I'm gonna let that cool a bit, but here are our pistachios, and let's just go over the recipe since I've changed things. Okay, so we started off with 3/4 cup of rice, or 5 ounces, 1.5 cups of water. We did 4 cups of 1% milk. Let me cross this out so I don't forget. All right, 4 ounces of plain granulated sugar, 1 tablespoon of vanilla extract, 6 ounces of apricots. All right, so as you can see, every time I make a recipe, so I change things around depending on sometimes what we have in our pantry, or maybe I just didn't like it the first time around, and when we test it, we want to improve it. So it's always fun to play around with our recipes and perfect them till we get them exactly the way we want. And it just is an opportunity for me to show you how you can have creativity with recipes. You can look at a recipe sort of like as a guideline to follow, and you can create it, make it into your own, and adjust it to the way you like. For instance, if you don't like apricots, please don't use them. You could use raisins instead, or you could just leave it completely plain. You don't have to put anything in it. So it is completely up to you. I do like pistachios with apricots. That is a nice combination of flavors. Pistachio and apricot goes together very well. So I'll plate that up for everybody and show you what it looks like when we're done. Here we go. Here's our finished apricot rice pudding with pistachio on top. And remember that when you are working with food, you have to think about the presentation. So if you're a pastry chef, working in a restaurant or a baker in a bakery or a bread shop or anywhere where you want to promote your food, you have to think about the presentation. So we have this nice little glass, put it on a plate with a doily. We have the long spoon, the generous sprinkling of pistachios on top, and it looks appealing. So don't forget that presentation is also just as important to your final product as well. So always remember how you're going to present it. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll try this at home. It takes time to keep an eye on it and to stir it constantly. But other than that, it is a pretty simple recipe, and you guys should probably try it at home as long as you have permission to work in the kitchen from your parents, okay? Or whoever's at home keeping you company. All right, take care, everybody. But enjoy, and I will see you soon. Bye.